Billionaire's twin children were born disabled, but what he caught the maid doing left him speechless. "Don't touch them!" he shouted, voice cracking through the marble hall. The maid froze, trembling, tears streaming down her face as one of the twins whimpered on the floor. "You think I don't see what you're doing?" Her hands shook. Something glimmered in her palm, small, metallic, secret. "Sir, please," she whispered. "You don't understand." And for the first time, he wasn't sure he wanted to. Now let me tell you how this incredible story unfolded. But before you continue, take a quiet second. Become part of this journey. Subscribe, not just to follow a channel but to stay connected. Share your heart in the comments and tell me where you're watching from, because your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's begin. The sun bled across the Nevada desert, staining the glass towers of Askaya Estate gold. From his balcony, Grant Maddox watched the sunrise the way some men watch a war, wary, untrusting, never at peace. Billionaire, philanthropist, father. Labels that once meant everything, now only a mirror reflecting his failures. Inside, the mansion was silent except for the soft hum of machines keeping his children alive and stable. Caleb and Sophie, 6 years old, born without the ability to walk or speak. They spent their days in a quiet world of therapy, nurses, and screens. Grant loved them fiercely, but guilt had wrapped that love in steel. Every morning he passed their room, glanced through the half-open door, and kept walking. Until she arrived. Her name was Nia Carter, a 27-year-old single mother from North Las Vegas, hired as a maid after a sudden vacancy. She wasn't polished like the rest of his staff. Her voice carried warmth, her hands the roughness of real work. She smiled too easily for a house built on silence. From day one, Grant noticed the change. The twins responded to her presence. Caleb's eyes followed her. Sophie's fingers fluttered when Nia sang low under her breath while dusting or folding sheets. But Grant didn't like changes. He'd built his empire on control, on knowing every number, every outcome. Watching someone else command his children's attention, watching warmth enter rooms he'd kept cold, it unsettled him. "Keep it professional," he warned her on the third day. His tone carried the clipped precision of a man used to being obeyed. "Yes, sir," she said quietly, but the look in her eyes, steady, unafraid, lingered long after she left the room. By the second week, the staff whispered. Grant's security cameras caught her staying later than scheduled, in the therapy room. Lights dim, no supervisor present. Grant didn't like that either. He told himself it was about protocol, liability. But deep down it was jealousy, the quiet ache of being replaced in his own children's world. That Friday, he decided to confront her. The night air in Askaya was thin and bright, the kind that made the desert hum like electricity. Grant entered the children's therapy wing without announcement, his shoes silent on the polished floor. Through the tinted glass, he saw it. Nia kneeling beside Caleb and Sophie, both lying on their playmats. Music played softly from her phone. She wasn't cleaning, she was showing them something. A flashlight beam danced over the ceiling. Her voice, gentle, rhythmic. "See that? That's light finding you. Even when it's dark, it finds you." Grant's chest tightened. The twins were laughing, or their version of it. Soft, breathy sounds that filled the sterile air with something close to joy. Then she did something that stopped him cold. She took off the diamond bracelet he'd given the staff as a holiday bonus, a piece worth more than her car, and pressed it into Caleb's palm. "You're not broken," she whispered. "You're brilliant." Grant burst in. "What the hell are you doing?" The bracelet clattered to the floor. Caleb flinched. Sophie whimpered. Naya stood, heart pounding, tears already threatening to spill. "Sir, I can explain." "Explain what? Teaching my children to steal? Using them for pity?" Her voice cracked. "No, sir. I said enough." He snatched the bracelet, glaring at her. "You're done here. Security will see you out." Nia bit her lip hard. For a moment, she looked like she might speak, but instead, she nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Yes, sir." But before leaving, she looked back at the twins, eyes red, voice trembling, and said, "They need more than machines, Mr. Maddox. They need to be seen." Her words hung heavy in the air long after she was gone. That night, Grant poured himself a glass of whiskey and stared at the footage on his security screen. The bracelet, the light, the laughter, and something inside him began to shift. Barely, but undeniably. If you've ever judged someone before knowing their full story, maybe this is the moment to stop, breathe, and reflect. Some stories change us if we let them. The next morning, the desert sky was the color of ash. Grant Maddox sat in the marble breakfast room, his untouched coffee cooling beside him. Across the table, 2 untouched plates of oatmeal sat before Caleb and Sophie. Their therapist tried coaxing a spoonful toward Sophie's lips, but she turned her head away. Caleb wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Grant didn't understand it until the therapist muttered, "They were fine yesterday, until she left." Her, Nia. Grant clenched his jaw. "I did the right thing," he told himself. "Rules are rules." But as Caleb's small hand slid from the spoon and his body trembled in silent protest, something in Grant cracked. That afternoon, he drove to the employment agency in downtown Henderson, a sterile office tucked between a Wells Fargo and a CVS. "Where's Nia Carter?" he asked. The manager, startled, scrolled through the system. "She terminated her contract this morning, said she found part-time work at Desert Heart's rehab center." Grant left without thanking her. Desert Hearts was 30 minutes away, on the edge of North Las Vegas, a modest facility with murals of sunsets and wheelchair ramps lined with succulents. Inside, the air smelled like disinfectant and peppermint gum. He found Nia mopping a hallway, earbuds in, wearing a faded t-shirt that read, "Be kind anyway." She froze when she saw him. "Mr. Maddox." Her tone was neutral, guarded. "I owe you an apology," he said stiffly. "I overreacted." "You fired me." "Yes," he exhaled. "And I regret it." Nia leaned on the mop handle. "Do you regret firing me? Or regret what it made you feel?" Grant hesitated, and that was her answer. She turned away. "Those kids need connection, not pity. You built a palace and forgot to fill it with life." The words stung more than he wanted to admit. "Come back," he said quietly. "Not as a maid, as whatever they need." Her brow lifted. "That's not how this works. They need consistency, patience, touch." She hesitated, then softened. "I can help, but only if you let me do it my way." Grant nodded, unsure why his throat burned. By the weekend, Nia was back at Askaya Estate. The staff eyed her with confusion, but she ignored them. She brought the twins outside for the first time in weeks, setting blankets on the manicured lawn beneath the wide Nevada sun. Grant watched from the terrace as she placed Caleb's hand on the grass. "Feel that?" she said softly. "That's the world saying you belong." He hadn't seen his son smile like that, not since the day they were born. Later, while helping Nia pack up the therapy toys, Grant asked, "Why do you care so much? You barely know them." Nia's eyes drifted to the horizon. I had a daughter once, Lena. She was 8 when she got sick. We didn't have insurance, and I cleaned houses like yours to pay for meds that didn't work fast enough." She swallowed hard. "When I see Caleb and Sophie, I see the fight she didn't get to finish." The silence between them grew heavy. For the first time, Grant didn't fill it with money or solutions. He simply listened. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Because people like you don't want messy stories," she said, wiping her hands on her jeans. "You want results, not reminders." Grant nodded slowly. Maybe I needed the reminder. That evening, the twins fell asleep earlier than usual. Grant lingered by their beds, watching the rhythmic rise and fall of their small chests. Nia stood beside him, humming faintly, an old gospel tune her grandmother used to sing in Mississippi. "Do you believe in God, Mr. Maddox?" she asked softly. He gave a bitter laugh. "I used to, until he decided my children didn't deserve a fair start." Nia met his gaze. "Maybe he decided you needed to learn love without conditions." Her words hit like a confession he'd been avoiding for years. He turned away, blinking hard. Over the next few days, a fragile rhythm formed. Nia's laughter returned to the halls. The twins' therapists noticed progress, subtle but real. Sophie began responding to sounds. Caleb started mimicking shapes with his fingers. Grant even joined one of their therapy sessions, clumsy and uncertain. When he managed to make Caleb giggle by dropping a plush dinosaur on his head, he laughed too. And for the first time in years, it didn't sound hollow. Still, guilt lingered. Late at night, he'd replay the image of Nia kneeling in the dim therapy room, the bracelet gleaming in her hand. He had accused her of theft when she'd only been trying to give his children light. If you've ever misjudged someone who was only trying to help, remember, understanding costs nothing, but silence can cost everything. Don't just watch. Carry the lesson forward. Night in the desert carries a strange stillness. Inside Askaya estate, that stillness felt wrong. Too heavy, like the air was holding its breath. For 3 days, Nia Carter had felt it. The twins' eyes dulling, their sleep deepening. The hum of the monitors seemed slower. She'd reported it twice. The head nurse, Marilyn Holt, only smiled. "Fatigue?" she'd said. "Normal with progressive therapy." But Nia had been a CNA before cleaning jobs paid better. Fatigue didn't smell like that. Chemical sharp, like hospital antiseptic laced with something sweeter. Past midnight, the estate was asleep. Nia padded through the dark halls, guided by the faint blue glow of exit lights. A strange mechanical whir echoed from the therapy room, the portable refrigeration unit that stored the twins' injections. She crouched beside it. The lock code blinked 0592, the twins' birth month. It clicked open too easily. Inside, the vials bore new white labels with no pharmacy logo. Just barcodes. Her phone camera shook as she snapped photos. A notification popped up. Access denied, file restricted, Maddox Pediatric Protocol. The vials weren't from any local supplier. Then she noticed the estate's internal tablet resting on the counter. The screen glowed faintly with a paused video. Security feed of the twins' therapy sessions, but overlaid with a Metasphere Research watermark. Her pulse spiked. Why would an outside lab have their footage? She tapped back. A passcode prompt appeared. 4 digits. She guessed. Wrong. Tried again. Wrong. She remembered Marilyn's birthday from the staff file taped on the fridge. 0726. The screen unlocked. Rows of encrypted files appeared, each tagged Trial 02, Maddox Subjects A and B. She opened one. The video played a lab setting, Caleb's infant form hooked to monitoring wires. A voice off camera, Marilyn's, saying, "Administering compound 3, subject responding." Nia's breath hitched. Her hand flew to her mouth. The twins had been experimental patients. She copied the file onto a flash drive, heart pounding. Then the therapy room door creaked. "Nia?" Marilyn stood in the doorway, hair unpinned, face pale in the security light. The syringe in her hand gleamed. "What are you doing with that tablet?" Nia backed away slowly. I was checking the vitals." Marilyn's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You shouldn't lie, dear. The system pings when someone enters restricted data." The refrigerator compressor kicked on, filling the silence with a low hum. "You sold them," Nia whispered. "Those babies. You sold their lives." Marilyn stepped closer. "Don't be dramatic. It was treatment they couldn't afford. Metasphere paid for the dosages, and I ensured continuity. Everyone wins. Everyone except them. You think he, the great Grant Maddox, didn't know? The foundation in his name funded half of it." "That's impossible." Marilyn nodded. "Corporate automation, sweetheart. He invested in a biotech index 5 years ago. His own trust wired the payments every quarter." The syringe lifted, trembling slightly in her hand. "I can't let you leak this. You'd destroy everything, including them." Nia lunged for the alarm switch, slamming her palm against the red button. The shrill siren split the silence. Marilyn grabbed her arm. The syringe jabbed but missed, skimming her sleeve. They struggled, crashing into the therapy cart. Glass shattered. Nia managed to shove Marilyn back, sending the nurse into a metal cabinet. The syringe rolled under a table. The door burst open. Grant Maddox, barefoot, robe half-tied, eyes wide. "What the hell?" Marilyn spun toward him, wild-eyed. "She broke in. She's stealing research data." Grant froze, taking in the flashing alarms, the spilled vials, the terror on Nia's face. "Nia?" "She's been dosing them with experimental drugs," Nia gasped. "There are files, videos, proof." "Don't listen to her," Marilyn hissed. "You approved every payment." Grant's face drained of color. "What payments?" She reached into her coat pocket and flung a crumpled check toward him. His own signature glared up from it. Maddox Holdings Pediatric Fund. The room fell silent except for the alarm's pulse. "You financed their trials through a subsidiary," Marilyn said quietly. "You're just too rich to notice." Grant staggered back, staring at his children through the glass window. No. Marilyn took a step forward, voice breaking. "I kept them alive when the doctors gave up. Metasphere paid me to continue. You think I wanted this? I needed the money. You can buy guilt therapy. I can't even buy insulin." Then security flooded the corridor, guns drawn. Marilyn dropped the syringe, hands shaking. Police lights soon painted the marble floors red and blue. Chief Daniel Rusk questioned everyone as paramedics sedated the twins for observation. Nia sat on the back steps, blood on her sleeve, trembling. Grant joined her, silent. "I thought you'd built this house to keep them safe," she said. "I thought money could fix anything," he whispered. "Turns out it only hides the rot." He looked at her, eyes raw. "If you hadn't stayed, I'd never have known." She gave a weary smile. "Truth has a way of finding light, Mr. Maddox, even in locked rooms. If you've ever trusted power more than people, ask yourself what it cost the ones who couldn't choose. Some truths hurt, but ignoring them hurts the innocent most. Trust us to deliver touching stories by subscribing." Morning came slow over the desert. The horizon glowed like it was burning itself clean. For the first time in months, the gates of Eskaya Estate were open, police vans gone, cameras dismantled, silence replaced by a faint echo of wind through the palms. Inside, Grant Maddox stood by the nursery window. His twins were safe at Henderson Children's Hospital, recovering from detox and observation. The doctor said they would heal. He hadn't slept. Every hour replayed the moment he saw his own signature on those checks. The sound of Nia's scream when the alarm blared, the look on his children's faces before the sedative took hold. Now his empire felt small. His money meant nothing. A knock broke the stillness. Nia stepped in, wearing jeans and a soft gray sweater. The bruises on her wrist had turned yellow. "The doctor said Caleb smiled this morning," she said. Grant nodded. First thing he's done without wires attached. She hesitated. "They'll be stable enough to come home next week." "Home," Grant murmured, glancing around the vast marble room. Maybe they deserve one that doesn't echo. Over the next few days, Grant began dismantling the empire that had betrayed him. He called every Metasphere board member, every lawyer. He turned over the entire Maddox Foundation to the state attorney's office and publicly admitted funding oversight failures. The story hit every Nevada outlet. Billionaire exposes own pharma scandal. The press painted him both hero and hypocrite. He didn't care. He sold his yacht, cut executive bonuses, and redirected millions to a trust for children with special needs complications from experimental trials. The first hospital to receive funding was Desert Heart's Rehab Center, where Nia once worked. When he visited the twins there, they reached for his hands, tiny, uncertain, but reaching. Nia was with them, teaching Sophie how to push finger paint across a canvas. The color bloomed like sunrise. "See?" she whispered to the girl. "You can make your own sky." Grant's throat tightened. He crouched beside them, dipping his finger in blue paint. "Mind if I help?" Caleb laughed, soft, breathy, real. For a long moment, everything else disappeared. That evening, he found Nia sitting outside the rehab center, watching the neon lights flicker from a nearby In-N-Out burger across the highway. "I thought you'd quit after all this," he said. "I almost did," she replied. "Then I remembered Lena." He looked at her questioningly. "She died because nobody fought for her. I wasn't about to walk away from two kids who still had a chance." He nodded, voice low. "You remind me what fighting actually means." She smiled faintly. "You remind me that people can change." The wind carried the faint smell of sage and asphalt. He turned toward her. "I don't know how to ask this right, but will you stay? Not as staff, as family." Nia blinked, tears threatening. "Are you sure you want a maid in your family, Mr. Maddox?" He shook his head. "No, I want the woman who saved it." Their hands found each other. No music, no grand gesture. Just the quiet, undeniable pulse of something beginning again. Weeks later, the twins returned home to a different house. Grant had converted the therapy wing into an open-air playroom, sunlight streaming through wide glass doors. Nurses came from Henderson Hospital, supervised by new specialists Nia recommended. One morning, while helping Sophie with her speech therapy, Grant heard a soft sound, barely audible, but there. "Duh," he froze. Nia looked up from across the room. "She said it," she whispered. "She said, 'Dad.'" Grant's vision blurred. He gathered his daughter into his arms, shaking with quiet sobs. Caleb reached up beside them, his small fingers brushing his father's sleeve. The silence that once haunted the mansion now felt sacred. Later that evening, Grant stood outside, watching the sun sink behind the ridges of McDonald Highlands. The city below shimmered, Vegas lights distant but alive. Nia joined him, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. "You know, I still think you owe me an apology," she teased softly. He smiled. "For firing you, or accusing you of theft?" "For both," she said. "But mostly for thinking money could love your kids better than people could." He nodded. "Then I'm sorry for everything." She took his hand. "Then we're even." The desert wind rose again, warm this time, carrying laughter from inside, the twins giggling as bubbles drifted across the living room. Grant looked at Nia. "You ever think maybe God gave me 2 miracles and sent a third to teach me how to deserve them?" Nia's eyes glistened. "Maybe he just got tired of waiting for you to open the door." 6 months later, the Maddox Foundation reopened under a new name, the Lena Carter Initiative, honoring Nia's daughter. Its first project funded free pediatric rehab clinics across Nevada. Reporters called Grant a changed man. He didn't correct them. He simply said, "I finally learned what wealth was for." As the cameras flashed, Nia stood behind him, the twins in her arms. If this story touched something in you, if it reminded you that redemption is possible even after we ruin what we love, don't just leave. Stay. Be part of the good that comes next. Thank you for staying with me until the very last moment of this story. If something in it, even a single glance, a breath, a heartbeat, reached you, then this story did what it was meant to do. Every view, every heartbeat that listens, keeps this little world of stories alive. So before you go, take a quiet second, become part of this journey. Subscribe, not just to follow a channel, but to stay connected to the next story waiting to speak to your heart. The next one goes even deeper, more truth, more love, more healing. And it's already waiting for you. Your next story begins right here.